This week on Quality Digest Live, we have a Tech Corner, and we're going to be looking at a video scope from Olympus. Join us in 1 minute. Welcome back to Quality Digest Live. Quality Digest Live is your weekly look at who and what is making the news in the world of quality. I'm Dirk Ducharme, Editor-in-Chief of Quality Digest. And with us in the studio today for our Tech Corner is Charles Unetska.
That's right.
I got it right? Oh, wow, okay. And we're going to be looking at a video scope from Olympus. Tell us a little bit about it.
So this is the IPLEX GX GT. It is the newest rendition of our IPLEX video scope family. It has some new exciting features that we're all really interested in getting in the hands of some inspectors. And so let me get into some of the new features of this GX GT.
Well, actually, before we do that, if I can just interrupt a little bit. So I call this a video scope. I've heard them call a bore scope. I mean, what's the difference? And basically, what do they do?
So a bore scope is just kind of the umbrella term for things like fiber scopes, rigid bore scopes, video scopes. A video scope is technically a bore scope with a camera in the tip adapter on the very
end. And a rigid bore scope is one that's where you see like it's kind of a solid.
It's one of the earliest. It's one of the earliest technologies. You just simply stick a stainless steel tube into somewhere, and it has lensing on the inside.
Okay, gotcha.
So the GX GT has some, as I mentioned, some exciting new features. One of the main ones, as you can see here, is a big 8-inch touch screen with a lot of functional buttons on either side of the screen. Everything you can do on the screen, you can also do on the handle, on the remote right here. What we also did with the buttons is made sure that we kept them away from the live screen, so they're on either side of the live screen so that it's not obstructing your view of what you're inspecting.
And when you say you can do the same things on the screen as you can on the camera, does that mean not just screen functions, but controlling the video scope itself, like the optics or the lighting and so on and so forth?
So we pride ourselves on being able to do, we have what we call a lot of hot buttons. So you can basically access and do and control almost everything you would want to from the screen or from the remote controller. Everything from the brightness, changing things like gain and exposure settings, and recording pictures and video, adjusting the actual light, as well as, if you can see on the remote controller as I'm moving it around, I'm actually articulating the end of the video scope.
Okay.
You can also do the same thing on the screen itself.
Oh, interesting. So there's no, so basically you eliminate the situation where, oh, I have to go back to the hand unit, or I have to go to the screen. I mean, you can do anything from either one, so you're not kind of locked into a particular position.
So you can utilize, and it's also, we just leave it up to the inspector, the user, to use it however they want. If you like the handle better, or if you want to hold the screen like this. We live in a time of touch screens and tablets, so that's where the technology is heading, of somebody holding the screen and actually accessing.
Okay.
So, large touch screen, another new feature of the GX GT that we have in some of our other models, but this is our mid-range model, so it's the first time we have this functionality in the mid-range model, and that is interchangeable scopes. So you have your base unit right here, which is the monitor and the battery and everything, and then you have the scope itself. So the scope is the handle. It is also the light source in front right here, and then the insertion tube. So the insertion tube is where all the work happens. This is a 6mm, 2-meter insertion tube. We make 4mm insertion tubes, and in the 6mm length size, rather, we have 2-meter, 3.5, 7.5, 10-meter. So you can have one base, multiple scopes. Okay. Let's say you're an aviation engine inspection company and you have to use multiple sizes, 4mm or 6mm. You can have multiple scopes and one base.
So when we're talking about the width, I mean, I can understand why you'd want to get smaller and smaller in order to get into tighter spaces. Is there an advantage to being able to go to, you mentioned 4 and 6 millimeters, is there an advantage to going up in size?
Right, so we always say the bigger the better with the insertion tube, because in the world of video scopes, light is always an issue because everything is so very small. We're limited, or we're restricted by the size because of the port sizes and just the machinery we're going into. Our insertion tube has to be very small. There's lensing and the actual camera chip itself in the very end of the insertion tube. So more space means you have more lights, which means for a brighter, better picture. You have potential room for a bigger chip with a higher pixel count, everything. So
if you can, if you can go to the wider diameter, that's just a better choice to go.
Exactly, absolutely, absolutely. It lets more light in, essentially.
Yeah.
So we have the interchangeable scope. I mentioned the light source in the actual handle. Another new feature that is new for Olympus is that we have interchangeable light sources. I have the white light right here, and you can see this grill. Basically, this grill section right here can be taken off and replaced with an infrared light source as well as an ultraviolet light source, which means we're now getting into the world of fluorescent dye penetrant inspection.
So people could, exactly what you said, they could use fluorescent dyes and then use the ultraviolet light to go in and detect it from inside.
Exactly. So in the past, we've had customers who used our video scope with an external fluorescent light source, and then they had a long light guide that they would have attached to the insertion tube or something like that. Now it's all internal to the video scope.
Interesting. All right.
So another new feature with the GX GT is I'm going to take a picture, or rather record a video. I'm going to hold the trigger down on the handle. It's going to ask me, do I want to take a video? I'm going to say yes. You can see on the screen on the top right a flashing red light. That means that I'm taking a video, and I'm going to kind of articulate it around so that there's something interesting to look at, and then I'm going to keep it from moving. If I press the capture button, in the past, if I saw something interesting that I wanted to take a picture of, I would have to stop the video, take a picture, start the video again. Here, you can see I'm still recording a video because the light is still flashing. Every time I press capture, I'm actually taking a picture.
So you could just take pictures on the fly.
Exactly. We have some inspectors who take a 2-hour video of their entire inspection. So you can have a 2-hour video as well as multiple pictures of key points, things that need to maybe be looked at afterward or looked at in more detail. So in addition to the capture functionality, you have this index button on the right. I'm going to press it, and then you'll see it flashes, and then it's going to go gray for a few seconds. What this index is really a bookmark, and we'll show that in a minute. I'm going to add a couple of them. Again, we have a lot of inspectors, a lot of customers who have a 2-hour inspection or a 2-hour video, and they record the entire inspection. They go back, they themselves or have somebody else in their quality department actually review the video. 2 hours of video is a lot of video to go over. So what this does is it allows the inspector to place a bookmark so that it makes it easier for whomever is reviewing the movie later to skip to those points of interest. So I'm going to go into the view right here.
So in the past, what they might have done is jotted down, oh, I'm at 35 minutes into it. Here was an interesting thing. Now they just hit a button and it just
I've seen a lot of notepads with Sharpie notes, just scribbling down timing and everything like that. Absolutely. So I press the view button, and we're basically reviewing the pictures that I just took. We took a video, and then these are the pictures that I took during the video. So I'm going to scroll through them. Now we're actually looking at the video itself. So you can see it scrolling on the bottom. It's actually playing the video. Here's where I say I want something interesting, so I'm going to start moving it around. I'm going to press the right button right here to go to the next or first bookmark, and you'll see it skips to that bookmark. And then I can skip to the next one, and then even kind of skip backwards and scroll through that way.
Interesting.
So it makes it very easy to review these long, because as memory devices get bigger and bigger, it's easier to have longer and longer video. It just becomes really, really time consuming to have to go through everything. So this just speeds up the process that much more. And speaking of memory and recording videos and a picture, it saves pictures in JPEG format and video in AVI format. And so it's nothing proprietary, nothing specialized, and it records with a
just a standard
SD card back here. I will note that this SD card right here is the one that comes standard with our videoscope when you purchase a GX GT. It comes with this SD card. This unit has been tested. It's IP65, and it's gone through the Department of Defense's military spec rating of drop tested, salt fog, all sorts of really tough environmental testings. If you buy an SD card from us, it's going to be a little bit more expensive than over the counter. It's fine getting it over the counter. The big point is that this SD card has gone through those same environmental tests.
Okay. Now, I'm wondering, so you showed us all this, you got a standard SD card, and you've already said you can just play that on a computer. Do you have software that you can run on your computer that would allow you to do some of the same functionality you were talking about, look at the bookmarks and that sort of thing?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Okay.
We have, it's called InHelp Viewer.
Okay.
It's free for download on our website, olympus-ims.com.
So basically the same kind of functions.
Exactly.
Okay.
It's recreating a lot of what you see on the videoscope, but on the PC. So you can review the video. Also, on the screen, you're seeing a lot of text on the screen. We call that the metadata that it saves into the picture. So it's not just on the picture, it's in or above the picture file, as we say. You can actually see that information with our software. One thing we have not gotten into, I mentioned this is a GX GT.
Okay.
Those are two different versions of kind of the same type of product. GX is the more advanced version and has some software functionalities that the GT does not have.
Okay.
Stereo measurement is one of them. So the GX has the capability of stereo measurement.
Stereo measurement. Okay.
So
am I going to put on my goggles? Or
well, the way we call it stereo because on the screen you will actually see two images,
okay.
and there is the option of so this is a whole other discussion on for stereo measurement. But you do have the option of just having one image for the stereo measurement, but it actually does the processing with two. So we're able to walk around and not run into walls and doors because we know how far things are away,
sure.
Largely because we have two eyes facing the same direction, and we can actually calculate, basically do some
trig in our head.
pretty quick trig that we're not aware of.
Right.
The videoscope does the exact same thing.
Okay.
But essentially, you have two images that look very, very similar. You pick a point on one image and the videoscope matches it, and then using parallax and trigonometry, it can detect where that point is in 3D space.
Now, is that standard on all the tips or the probe? What do you call the end?
We call it, well, so it's the distal end, which is just means that it's this end of the insertion tube. But we do have tip adapters that are removable. And you do have to have a special stereo.
So you have a stereo one.
Exactly, because it has to have the
two lenses.
Two lens systems.
So that's interesting.
So, and I mentioned the stereo because the software that's freely available, you can also remeasure these defects and cracks on the software.
So when you say measurement, what kind of measurement would you do or can you do with this?
Some of the most common measurements are essentially measuring the length of a crack, or I'm going back to aviation engine again.
Okay.
Measuring how deep into a blade that a crack goes, or how far from the tip of the blade or the root of the blade is the crack. You can also look at missing materials such as coating in the combustion chamber, as well as if you have some sort of corrosion, you can actually measure the area of that corrosive area. Okay, and
those type of measurements, those are only possible with the stereo.
Correct.
With the stereo.
The special stereo, as well as only with the GX version. So it has that added software functionality.
Now something you haven't touched on yet, but you mentioned it to me earlier, is your tips are unique in that you have a way to prevent oil and from building up on the tip.
So this is something that we just came out with, and we're really excited about, and we have it in the GX GT. For what it's worth, for anybody out there, if they have an older RX RT, which is the older version of this, essentially, they can use the same tip adapters for what I'm about to show. So my favorite example is I had the opportunity to crawl up a wind tower and do some training in the nacelle up in a wind tower, and in that application especially, the oil is very warm and it's really good at crawling everywhere. So when you're doing an inspection, the oil starts to crawl along the insertion tube and then gets in front of the lens. You have to take it out, clean it, try to find what you were looking at. So what we did here is, if you can see on the screen there, you can see the actual lensing in the center, and then the grooves on either side. Those grooves actually pull the oil away from the lens through capillary action, so that the oil is still technically there, but it's just a thin film that you can actually see through.
So rather than have like a bubble, like a bubble of oil, which is going to distort everything, basically it wicks off the bubble, and you're just left with a relatively flat
exactly
layer of oil.
At that point, you can then do the basic inspection with maybe a thin layer of oil. If you have something that you want to get closer to or have a better image to take a picture of, then you can take it out and clean it, but to do most of your inspection. And I say that because I had the idea that that was going to happen, but what I love about going out into the field is actually seeing how it's being used. You talk to designers and we look at and we have these great ideas, but it doesn't matter if people don't actually feel comfortable with using it that way.
And since this is really just a change to the construction of the tip, like you said, these are available for your older models as well.
Correct. So the most recent predecessor, the RX-RT, we actually currently only make this type of tip adapter. So a replacement tip adapter for the older model is going to be this newer version, because it's just simply, there's no reason not to only use this one.
Okay, interesting. So what is the main market that you see this going into right now?
So I mentioned aviation engine, that's one of our bigger ones. Power generation, steam turbine, so it's a similar turbine situation, as well as nuclear facilities, and then oil and gas pipelines, so wherever you need to look at welding, cracks, and corrosion, things like that, and then chemical refineries, and yeah, those are the main ones.
Okay, and you said this has got an IP65 rating?
IP65, and there is, again, it's a mil-spec rating that it's about 6-7 different tests that they go through. Okay.
Well, Charles Janeczka?
Janeczka.
Yes. I'll get it right. Thanks for joining us. Again, this was the Olympus IPLEX
GX GT.
And if you want more information on it, it is actually available on the Olympus website as well. You can just, actually I believe there's a link underneath the player page down there, and you can click on that and go out to it, or you can just Google Olympus IPLEX, and you should get out to it, I believe, right?
Absolutely.
Okay. Well, that is it for today's show. Thanks for joining us. As always, if you have an idea for a product that you would like to see on the show, have somebody come in and demo it, let us know what you'd like to see, and we'll give them a call and see if we can have them come out. So that is it for today's show. Thanks for joining us. Oh, and by the way, send that to qdl@qualitydigest.com, qdl@qualitydigest.com with your suggestions. That's it for today. We'll see you next week. So long.